Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the EmpowerMAN podcast. It's your boy, Mikey G, coming to you live from the free state of Florida on this beautiful Thursday afternoon of filming. And today, I am joined by the one and the only, the man. This man once told me it was all a dream. He used to read Word Up magazine, and he had Salt and Pepper and Heavy D in the limousine. He hung pictures on his wall every Saturday. Rap Attack, Mr. Magic Molly Mall. He is the man who is good as sun-kissed. Many want to know who done this. It was his 8th grade quote, because this guy gives out good vibrations all the time. His definition of a ceasefire is when you cease to exist. He is the patriot. He is the parent. He is the family man. He is the man who's not wearing the shirt that I'm wearing. Greg A. Todora the first. Numero uno, sir. Happy Thursday. First off, again, you are overcoming adversity with an upper respiratory infection.
Yes, it's the election variant. Yeah, man, I'm feeling better. Whatever. It is what it is. It's annoying. But thank you.
It's kind of apropos because we're going to get into what it means to be a man in a little bit. But as tradition, we always want to give a shout out to our policemen and women, our firemen and women, our first responders. Thank you for keeping our community safe and free and protecting us at all times.
Yes, sir. And a special shout out because of everything that's going on out there to all of the military personnel out there. Stay safe and watch your back. And we appreciate everything that you do and all the families, stay vigilant.
Yeah, and also too praying for Israel and everyone in the Mideast, that they can find some resolution to this. There's obviously innocent people that are going to be a casualty of this conflict, and we really want peace everywhere around the world. Peace starts at home, and it's pretty disturbing to see the civil unrest on our college campuses with the amount of anti-Semitism, and it's pretty sad that here we are in 2023 and we're going through this,
It's a joke. The whole college system is a joke. I have no respect for any of these kids out there. They have no real life experience. I could care less, and I am not giving them any airtime. They're all pieces of shit, if you ask me. Stay in school, and keep it there. Because when you get in the real world, it's going to kick you in the teeth, and you're going to stay living in your mom's and dad's basement. So go ahead. That's fine. More for you and me.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, what is reality? I mean, we really take a look at it. It'd be another topic for an episode. I mean, people's realities are so different. It's really bizarre. But I think, it's a great segue into our topic for today. What does it mean to be a man? Growing up, I was always told, when my father had left, you're the man of the house now. You're the man of the house. I'm like 7 years old. I'm like, what does that mean? Yeah. Or back in our day, when you'd square up with somebody, let's be a man about it, right? So that type of, I think, image of what a man is has changed here we are in 2023. Greg, what do you think a man is?
My definition of a man is definitely not fitting to nowadays, in my opinion. A man is somebody that is a provider, a protector, and a leader with their family, their friends, their community, somebody that stands by their beliefs. And also, when they make a mistake, not a problem. They own it and they live it, and that's it. Just take accountability. A man is somebody that is needed nowadays, especially more and more as we move on in time, because this country is just going downhill. The world's going downhill, in my opinion. And the need for a real man and real men could not be more significant as time goes on. We are going to need them. And it's the small end of the funnel. There are not many left. There are not many that think like us. There are not many out there. The ones that are out there are awesome. But I think there's going to be a time where shit's going to hit the fan and everybody's going to want and need a real man. And let's see how that works out for people.
Right. You mentioned the word real man, and that real man definition in this instance, we're talking about being a provider, a protector,
Yeah.
someone who takes accountability. When we were growing up, our images of men were like John Wayne, or we look at the Marlboro Man was another example of so the image of what a man fit when we were growing up. I mean, Ric Flair talked about this in his promo, one of his promos. You don't cry about it. If you're a real man, you stay up, you never really go down, or it's a man's business,
Yeah.
or it's a man's world, or anything that man. All right. We all know the suffix of woman is man. And we know that woman was created. Hopefully, most of us believe out there that woman was created by our ribs to form woman, man, woman. But like you said, in today's world, the definition of a man is so skewed from what we were growing up. We'd play with injuries. We'd work when we were sick. We never really took a day off. And now you're kind of, seeing that it could be both a good and a bad thing. When we were growing up, we didn't really talk a lot about our feelings. Now it's acceptable for a man to talk about their feelings. So, Greg, do you think, taking what we knew as a man growing up, how can we add on to that in 2023? Like, how can you still have those masculine qualities that we had growing up, provider, protector, and someone who takes accountability, but kind of tie that into how that narrative can fit here we are on this present day in 2023?
The only thing I think you can add on to those attributes could be open communication and being okay with speaking about how you feel and all that. That's fine. You can still be a hardcore man, a tough guy, whatever, and still have an open line of communication and the need sometimes to talk to somebody or have that, you know, that lean on. You need somebody to lean on every once in a while. There's no problem with that. That doesn't make you less of a man at all, in my opinion. I just think that the communication is needed to add on to the older attributes.
Right. So being vulnerable is something that you could add
Yeah.
on to the accountability aspect, provider and protector, which is, it's a spot on definition, because that's exactly what I was going to say as
Yeah.
well. Especially I think now being a man with confrontation, I think it's kind of challenging because, when we were younger, it was a little bit different, right?
Hmm.
Like I remember proving my manhood was going to the bar and last one standing one, which was stupid, right? Or how tough were you at 4 o'clock in the morning when all hell broke loose? So it was kind of like picking a fight. I'm not mentioning any names here, but somebody I know would pick fights at 4 o'clock in the morning after a night of drinking to prove himself. But that was a voice in not someone said, not saying it's mine. I'm saying a voice in someone said that said, hey, you got to do this because you have to prove based on your life experiences that you're tough. What
Yeah.
makes a man tough, Greg? What would you say makes a man tough?
My opinion of tough isn't going out looking for anything or looking for trouble or starting shit. Being tough to me is just being able to protect yourself, protect your family and friends, and not back down when needed. And to have the confidence to speak up in what you want to say and what you want to do, and nobody stops you from that.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, I think what makes a man tough is how they handle adversity.
Hmm.
We've seen an epidemic over the last, I mean, in our lifetime, about kids that grow up fatherless, and we're
Yeah.
going to touch upon that later on in the episode. But you know, from someone who doesn't honor their responsibilities and their commitments and
Yep.
that accountability word, when times are tough, like what are you going to do? Like if you lost everything, you got 2 kids. Are you going to sit around and cry about it, or are you going to go out there and you're going to find 2, 3 jobs? You're going to hustle and
Yeah.
make it work.
You got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. And we've always hung on to that notion. If you want it, you'll make it work. Right
Hmm.
now, you're in a huge transition of your life and you're going to make it work
Hmm.
because that's the way you're programmed. That's the way
Yeah.
you're designed. There's no failure. You're going to make it work. It's just a matter of how and the time, but it's going to work. So to people out there that struggle to find their identity as a man, what mindset practices or what mindset techniques would you give somebody who's struggling to find their identity as a man? And I'm not talking about sexual identity, but
Hmm.
where do they fit in the world, in the role? with their household, in their role with at the workplace, in their role with their friends. How would you give someone advice?
The only advice I would give in regards to that, because it's a great question, is I would start with how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel? How do you physically feel? Are you weak? Do you want to be stronger? Are you healthy? What do you eat? Do you work out? Like I would just start there with the self. You build the self up enough and you get them working out and eating well, they start feeling better about themselves. There's nothing better, you know this, than when you're making gains at the gym
Mm,
and you have certain goals and you hit them numerically like, oh, I want to bench 500. Okay, you hit 500, that's great. There's nothing like that hitting your goals, but it's also nice walking around and you know you are strong and you can take care of yourself and others around you, your people. So I think I would start with that conversation like, how do you feel about yourself and how do you think you're perceived in the public or within your family or within your friends? Are you the weak link? If shit goes down, are you the person that they're going to call? Are you the person they're going to text and look for that help? Or are you the last person that's going to be picked at dodgeball at gym class?
right. And you had a great word, confidence. And a lot
Hmm.
of guys struggle with being confident.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into it in another episode about having an ego versus, you know, being proud.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line there,
Hmm.
as over the time. But I think you made a great observation with that. It's having the confidence.
Yeah.
I think a lot of men really don't understand their values because we always talk about because there's so many distractions, there's a lot of noise coming at people,
There's all
especially
these
social media.
false narratives out there to compare yourself to, and they can't hit them. It's almost impossible on a daily basis. You look on social media or whatever, you see all these buff guys and they're million like that. That's not achievable right out of the gate. It is achievable in time, but it's not right out of the gate. And that's a hard thing for somebody that's looking for confidence, that's constantly looking at that. Meanwhile, most of that is fake. There's only a few real ones out there, you know?
I agree. So, Greg, do you think if you said this to somebody, or if someone said this, let's settle this like men, do you think that would fly? Do you think the other person would even know what we're talking about here in
No,
2023?
I've done it. No, nope, not nowadays. Maybe somebody our age, but even that, it's very rare. I have yet to see it. I mean, not that I go around doing it all the time, but it's happened. It's happened, and people look at you like you're speaking Chinese or something. When back in the day, things got settled, and that was it, done.
Think about the trajectory, right? Over the last 20 years, where we started our friendship, right? And
Hmm.
just we've seen how things have changed over the last 20 some odd years or so.
Hmm.
How do you think it got to this point where men are almost like afraid to be men in a way? How did this get so bad?
It starts with. It doesn't start with, but it's. I look me personally. I think it's like a pyramid, almost like government, media, down to the local level. And then now you have marketing campaigns of big companies that are aligning themselves with a certain message. And a lot of women gravitate towards certain shows on TV and magazines and all this stuff. And it's, they slowly started the deterioration of a real man, that toxic masculinity we heard a while ago. That started somewhere. They took that narrative and kept pushing it, and pushing it, and pushing it. You see it every day. You see it on every channel at some point. You see it on every social media at some point. When you see it a lot, now it desensitizes people and it becomes normal. So now people are like, oh, maybe there is something to that. Maybe men are toxic and all this stuff. And it's often running and it's out of control. Once it's out of control, there's no backpedaling. And I think that played a big part in what's happened. It's funny that nobody wants a real man anymore, or and I'm not saying equality like the women's rights, that's great, that is not what I'm talking about. But all these people, oh, I can do this on my own. I can do this on my own. Last time I checked, it's a lot of men going off to war. I'm just saying. And I'm not talking about the U.S. military. I'm not dissing any women. That's not what I'm saying. But last time I checked, there's a lot of men going off to war. There's a lot of men doing certain things. Where is all? You need a man to defend a country, property, family, friends. Who's going to do it? I will have that debate all day with somebody.
Right.
And I am not dissing women. It's just a fact.
Right. And a lot of men are apprehensive to step into that role. And you wonder where that apprehension comes from. Either they don't know, they haven't been exposed to it,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're afraid. So, how would a guy get over that stepping into that role? Like, what advice would you say? Just be a man, toughen up. Like, how would you prepare a guy? Because there's a lot of guys out there that we probably have run into that are pacifists, which is okay. Because I'm all about peace, man. I don't want any
I'm all
problems.
about peace too until a
I'm all
certain
about
point.
peace. Right. So, how do you first talk to try to diffuse the situation? And if that doesn't work, then it's time to do battle. Like, what would
You mean
you
if I'm in a beef with somebody?
just like if you're trying to protect your property, and you're like, say, get off my, Clint Eastwood
That's a little
and Gran
different.
Torino,
That's a little different.
right? We talked about
Yeah.
protection, right? Like, so
Yeah.
a guy's never protected his family before. Like, we talk about having a second. Oh, I got too little too excited there.
There you go.
Bum, bum, ba-da-da-da-da, da-da-da. So, what what advice would you give a guy that has never stepped into that role before?
The first thing I would say is, are you able, if you had to, are you able to step into that role? Because if the answer is no, don't step into that role because you're going to get checked real quick and it's going to be bad news. So I think it's good to be trained up or prepared to be able to step into that role if there's a problem. I mean, you and I, our immediate core group of guys, friends, the group chat, we're good. I have zero concern for us. We can all take care of ourselves if something were to happen. But we also know a lot of guys that are not stepping into that and they look for help and they look for guys like us to help them. So if you want to step into that, number one thing is, are you able to? Like if I'm in your face, like what are you doing? What are you going to do?
Right. And it's tough because you really want to diffuse the situation because as
Of
you get
course.
older, you have a lot more to lose.
Mhm.
Right. When
Always
you're
give warning.
younger,
Always give warning first. But
right,
after that, that's it.
right. When you're younger, you don't care. You throw
Yeah.
caution to the wind. You're just like, oh well, all right, here we go. And you
Yeah.
don't think about it's almost like, yeah, spending a night in jail is kind of like a badge of honor. Like, yo, he went to jail. It's awesome. Now the thought of it scares the crap out of me. So, quite honestly, I don't really want to do anything that's gonna cost me my livelihood in my life.
Yeah.
And I think now with society making laws kind of challenging for guys like us to defend ourselves, it's
They're
like
definitely against us.
we're the ones that would be doing, some looking at some serious penalties. Well, the criminals, depending on where you live, I think Florida has a little more common sense than some of the states that we've visited or that you're living in or the friends are living in that
Yeah.
would say, okay, this guy had the right to defend himself and his property and his family, and that's all he was doing, and it was self-defense. And
Yeah.
so I think the society's made it more challenging for a guy to step into that role.
Yeah.
But we're talking about role models, Greg. I think role models play a huge role. No pun intended, on a guy's trajectory, where they're going to go. Can you recall like your first role model or guys that you emulated, or guys that you aspired to be, or some great traits that you took away from guys that you looked up to growing up to kind of help shape who you are today?
That's a good question. I can't think of any off the top, but what I clearly remember from a young age is watching programs like The Hulk, like the real one. And also a big thing was wrestling back in the days, like you. We grew, I mean, if you look at the clips from when you and me were 8 years old, even earlier, like maybe 7, 8 years old till like 13, 4, it's outrageous the stuff they were doing. But that shaped us, and some of the athletes shaped me as well. Like I remember certain athletes not backing down, like Charles Barkley, and I'm a fan of his. He wasn't my favorite basketball player, obviously, but I respect that he he was a little rough, but he also didn't back down from anybody, no matter what. If he felt like he was disrespected, like things like that, I think play a role with certain things. Not so much actors, because it just that is what it is. But I can't really name one person, but I vividly remember certain, like the A Team, like
Oh
all the
yeah,
great ones, like
favorite show.
Airwolf, all of them, Dynasty, all of that stuff. I remember as as a kid, and those were just men back in the day doing things, Magnum PI, stuff like that.
I like Michael J. Fox from Family Ties. I thought it was great being a young Republican. Now that I don't think that would fly these days,
Probably not.
unless probably crazy, right? But back then
Most of that stuff wouldn't fly.
it's wild. And those
Look at the movies we
shows,
grew up on. What about? I mean, they're classics, but you can't make them now.
a lot of those shows were ahead of their times. Like, I mean, when I look at
Miami
like,
Vice, man, one of the best
oh,
shows that was
dude,
ahead of its time. Greatest show.
different strokes.
Yeah.
Some of the issues that they tackled, I mean, were so crazy. And when Nancy Reagan came on TV, it didn't
Hmm.
matter. She was a first lady. No one looked at her as like a conservative or, it was the
Yeah.
first lady, and it was revered that she'd be on a show. And now, I think if like Melania Trump was on a show, it'd be like, oh, that show is getting canceled, or it'd be so much they'd be ostracized, And
Yeah.
I think when you look for, you said leadership, and you look at the presidency, right? I, throughout our years, I love Ronnie Reagan. Ronnie Reagan's my guy, and I remember growing up at that time. It was like he came in at like the right time, and between the music and the social and the '80s, they just thrived, man. It just thrived, and I think of like Wall Street, Gordon Gekko with
Yeah.
Michael Douglas, you
Hmm.
know. So I think when you have a president that people believe in, and I think kind of set the stage, it'd be nice to see like, like, and I say this, like, even like, our president now, let's have him step on something or a sitcom, or like you had, just to kind of lighten the
Hmm.
the social strife, but you don't see that anymore. That's kind of sad.
And the respect at the level of presidency, like there was always when we were kids, you respected it. Whether you agreed or not, that's fine. But I think as time has gone on, respect for the presidency has gone downhill, no matter
Oh,
who's in office, because of the culture of this whole country, which is completely upside down. And we are going to pay the price for it.
well, next year, folks, it doesn't matter who you vote for. Well, it does, as long as you vote and get out there, and whatever side of the fence you play on, realize that people are dying for the right to have this freedom and this forum to openly discuss ideas. So just keep that in mind. It's a great point, Craig. Um, do you think um, those role models, you were able to take a little bit away to formulate who you are, or were there certain things that were drilled in you that you coupled with some of the people you looked up to kind of create the force known as Greggy T?
I think it's a combination of both. I think it was what was taught to me from my parents and the examples they set, and my dad and my mom, combined with all of that. And respect, you respect your elders growing up, but respect is also earned. And I've taken that to heart my whole entire life, right or wrong. You want my respect, you have to earn it. I will earn your respect. I start at 0 and go to 100. A lot of people start at 100 until they're taken advantage of. I'm not like that. You have to earn your place with me. And I'm happy doing it with you like that as well.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And I think, again, every guy and girl should have that type of kind of like standards, because you don't really want, a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Kind of
Yeah.
getting into your circle and kind
No,
of,
definitely not.
permeating your focus and whatnot. And I want to kind of segue into that, Greggy T.
Hmm.
You mentioned your dad, God rest his soul. And now you are a father. Greggy T, how important is it, whether you're a girl dad, a boy dad, how important is fatherhood? how important? I mean, we love all the moms out there. There's something about a father that really kind of cements things in children's minds. How important has it been for you to be a father? Secondly, how important was your father to you?
Okay, I think it's tremendously important to be a father, and I think kids need that. Whether you're married or divorced, you didn't ask that. You asked father. You're always a father once you have a kid. So you have to be a father, whether you're under one roof with your partner or separate. And I think kids need the grounding of both parents, and I think they need that father figure because I mean, we can just look at the statistics of the kids that have grown up without that father figure present. It's a disaster, and that's guys and girls. And it's a simple fix. If you're a dad, just be responsible and do the best you can, and just be there for your kids. It's tremendously important for their growth. I couldn't even think what my kids would be like, and they're super young without me in the picture.
Right.
It's just weird to me. I don't even I can't even think about that. I have no idea. It would not be good. I could tell you that.
Do you follow a certain playbook? Do you have like a certain thing that you follow? I mean, everyone thinks parenting, there's like a playbook how to do things the right way, the wrong way, what's right for one, maybe wrong for another. How do you parent? Like, how do you step into that role of being a father?
You just got to do it. There's certain you can read all the books in the world, and you'll pick up some good information or tricks along the way. But at the end of the day, you're learning on the fly. Every kid is different. All the personalities are different. And in the beginning, you're just trying to survive the day. You're on a day to day mode and you're just doing the best you can. And you're trying to be on the same page with your partner. That helps tremendously. So there's no set playbook, but you just try to you remember the things that worked when you were younger with your parents, and you try to instill those same lessons and beliefs and thought process on to your offspring. And to answer your second question, um, my dad played a tremendous role in my life. Tremendous. Once again, he was there every day, and he was a sounding board and a voice of reason. And him and I are very different. We have different mentalities. He's you can you can poke him 1,000 times and he won't react. But on 1,001, he's gonna maul you. Me, I'm like my mom. You just do this. You didn't even poke us yet, and we're just on you like animals. That's how that. So my dad and I butted heads on a lot of response issues with things, but at the end of the day, he was a tremendous sounding board and a an anchor in my growing up to adulthood. Total positive role model, and he was into everything from like motorcycles and cars and all that. That's where I get all that from. So it's cool. It's how it should be.
Yeah. I'll never forget when he came to visit you and he came and hung out in my apartment. We were drinking beer, watching, I think we
Yeah,
were
I'm
watching
at
a
work.
basketball game.
Yeah, I'm at work, and you guys are having a great time. Must be nice. I
We were
walk in, I'm
sitting
like,
there.
Jesus Christ.
Here we are drinking beer. I think we were watching a Nick game or something. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
just come on, hang out. We had a great time. At that
Oh, look,
apartment took
Greg's
off.
here. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Hey, Greg, get another beer. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shut the door. That
That was great.
was a lot of fun, man. That was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. And stories like that, to have those memories are really, really cool. And you wish more guys would step into that role that your dad played. I mean,
Yeah.
hanging out with all of us. We used to call him like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that was a lot of fun, right? And I'm sure as a parent, he was probably scared to death more if something
They
happened.
got
But
they
I
got
mean,
used to it, man.
it's fun, and it's
Hmm.
it's sad to see a lot of guys step away from that role. And Greg, why do you think guys shy away from that? But more importantly, why do you think guys abandon that responsibility of being a father? Why do you think that is?
I don't think they had the example fully set for them. So it's almost, I'm not defending them, but it's almost not their fault. if they were never shown how to truly step into that role and be the man of the house and the father figure, how can they do that themselves if they're never taught? So it's a bad gap right there, and I think it's hard to bridge that if you don't have that example. And also, I just think their heads aren't in the right places. They're probably distracted with all the bullshit, and the next best thing, like instead of just being present and being grateful for what you have now.
Right. And one could argue then, if you're going to hook up with a girl, wear protection. Or if you're, if you're with somebody and you're in a relationship or you get married and you have kids, like I would assume together, one would get married because they want to start a family. Right. And if you have a partnership, you probably can bounce one thing off the other. But then again, there are a lot of great single dads out there. And we give a shout
Yeah.
out to some of those single dads that are doing it,
Yep.
you know, for people. And you
Our good
think,
friend is a great single dad.
amen to that.
Yep.
Amen to that. He's amazing. And I when I look at things and I look at things probably a little bit different because I'm not in a relationship. I'm not married. I don't have any kids that I know of. Um, a lot of guys as they get older can't wait to step into that role. I was
Yeah.
reading one of Matthew Perry died over the weekend, and I was reading some things online, and this guy couldn't wait to be a dad. And there are a lot of great men out there now amidst all his struggles. Addiction's a disease. I mean, he had a huge heart. It's one thing that was said kind of, steadfast throughout all the tributes. And there are guys out there that can't wait to be a dad. Why do you think guys like that are not in a position to be a father? Guys that like, oh, I can't wait to be a dad. I can't wait to do this. I can just my kids, but yet they don't have anyone even in the ballpark. They have nobody there to even. There's no one even stepping up to the plate that said, "Hey, you know what? I want to be a parent with you." Why do you think guys struggle to find someone to have a family with?
I don't know, Mike. That's a good question. I mean, there's so many different angles I can answer this. I also think, and I'm going to get heat for this, the lack of quality options for that guy also out there, depending on his age range. A lot of these girls are all caught up with the social media bullshit and the look at me instead of like, what are you doing? You know, and like this is a silly example, but I used to see it all the time when I worked in real estate in New York City. They would have these grand openings for these magnificent buildings with
Mm,
these super luxury apartments like 20 million, 30 million, 15
mm,
million. So they would call my office to go in so we can preview it because a lot of us had clients that want to buy residencies like this, and we're seeing all you know the amenities of the building. We're meeting the staff. They're taking us through the different lines of the apartments, like 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, 2 bedroom. And there's always the group of girl agents that get all dialed up for this. They look like shit all week when they barely get to the office,
mm.
but they're all dialed up and they're all just taking selfies on the couch, in the bedroom, in the bathroom. They're just caught up. Look at me, but they don't do any business. So they're just trying to live that lifestyle, like, look at me, instead of, hey, why don't I help market this and maybe make some money and sell this to a client? They don't have any clients. They shouldn't be in the business. And it's all for show for their Instagram page or whatever page they use nowadays. And it's funny because you can count with a calendar. Those people are out of the business within 3 months. So, and I'm going to say this, there was a girl. So we shared an office downtown. And in my office, there was 3 desks. I had 2 of them. She had the other one. She never did business, but she was hooking up with the manager. Whatever. I have zero respect for that. But so when you open my drawers, files, documents, all things for work and transacting business, you open up hers, shoes, different shoes to wear to events or dates every night of the week. That's the difference. So sorry to go on that trajectory, but it reminds me it's probably a lack of quality also is one of the reasons why some of these guys can't find a suitable partner to have a family with. There
Yeah,
are other reasons. I'm just sticking with that one
sure.
right now.
And that pretty much umbrellas a lot of things. I think quality, you can put a lot of things under that umbrella too.
Yeah.
And I think too, I guess quality is all probably going to be relative to that person. So you'd like to
Yeah.
think, if you're looking for somebody who's going to fit the narrative that you want in a
Yeah.
partner, then hopefully you can, kind of weed the lust away, because we all think with the lustful eye. So, um,
And it's weird. I know a lot
yeah,
of people that they start dating somebody and then they're really seriously dating them, but they have a conversation and one of them doesn't want to get married and have kids, but the other one wants to do that.
right,
And it becomes that frictional breaking point where they'll hang on and stay together. They both know it's not going to work. But sometimes they'll stay together 5 years, 6 years, and then break up, and it's not an amicable breakup at all. They fucking hate each other, and it's all well, they didn't want kids or get married, and I'm just like, "Listen, I'm not defending them, but you had that discussion, and they were honest with you 6 years ago. You should have pulled the cord and got out then. As hard as it may be, as much fun as you were having, if you're not on the same page with where you wanna be, pull the eject button and you can gracefully bail out. It's all good. Listen, let's go our separate ways. We'll be friends. I
right.
know I want this. You know you want that. We don't align. It's all good. And maybe our paths will cross again in the future. I don't know. And that's it.
Yeah,
But
that's a
people
great.
tend to push all those red flags aside and then they pay the price later on.
Yep,
And we've all done it. Guilty.
painfully, painfully,
Yeah, of course. Of
painfully.
course.
One of the things, and we'll kind of go in this direction, right? When it comes to men interacting with women and what it means to be a man, we see a lot of girls tend to get treated wrong. We just see it. We've seen it throughout
Yeah.
most of our lives, right? And you
Absolutely.
wonder, what's she doing with this guy, or what
Man,
am
if we
I
had a
missing
dollar
here?
every time we said that, huh?
Exactly. And we know money doesn't fix everything. A girl can be with a guy for money, but that doesn't fix the problem. It's just like putting a band-aid on a cut.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, I didn't really learn the real intricacies of treating a woman properly until I was in my early 30s, right? And we're talking about chivalry. Chivalry is something that for a man I feel is very important. I think it's very important for a man to show a lady what it's like to be a
Mm-hmm.
lady.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, a lot of girls don't know what that it's like anymore, or
Yes.
you get pushback on, I don't need
Mm-hmm.
you to hold the door for me. So it's kind of like, it blows my mind. Years ago, even let's see, 2023, 15 years ago, that would be like applauded. Like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Great. Is chivalry still important these days? And do you think we need to bring that back and make that more prevalent in society? What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on chivalry?
So I've been thinking about this a lot since you brought it up to me. And I think chivalry is very important. And I think it is necessary and it should not go away. And every guy should do it. And if you don't know it, learn it. I mean, it was passed on to me. I was taught that from my dad, like what to do for a girl, because I would watch him with my mom, and he would also tell me this is what you do. I'm sure the same thing with you. I knew to hold the door for somebody. I knew to do certain things for a girl growing up. That's what you do. I think it's tremendously important. I also think that it's gotten way lost and it's getting farther and farther away as time goes on because these younger generation of guys are not taught it at all, so they don't know it. They don't have any examples to see it because it's also getting less and less out there. So it's a really bad recipe for it to survive. All we can do is our best to try to teach it and show what is to be done. My girls will know how to be treated by a guy. They will know that because number one, I will tell them. Number two, they can see it on my daily actions and they can also see how I am with my wife. This is what this is what a guy does. And if a guy doesn't do that, don't pay him any mind. For the guys out there, and it's happened to me, I'm sure it's happened to you. You do these things, these nice gestures, these things that should be a given for a guy to a girl. And like you said, the girl's like, well, I don't need you to hold the door. The old me would blast her verbally, just something I would have done. Nowadays, I don't say anything, but I'm not going to let that stop me from doing it again for somebody else. So don't let them dull your light in the chivalry category. It should be, they don't want it, that's fine. You're not getting it anymore. Like you're on the pay no mind list. So when I hold a door when I'm, I don't know, out shopping or whatever for a stranger, and usually the older ladies are cool, like thank you and you're welcome. But a lot of the younger ones, don't say anything. I'll tell them you're welcome, and they'll look at me like I'm crazy. Meanwhile, you're the one that's crazy because you don't know this is the proper thing to do. But because of all the negatives that are out there, I think the guy should still do it. I'm not saying get walked all over, but you should still do it. And for yourself, you do it. You do it for your self respect. And because that's who you are, you have good values. You know you're a man and what a man should be doing. So I say, don't give up on it. Keep doing it. The right person will respect that.
I
There
agree.
are still girls out there that are looking for this.
That's right. And for those girls that reject it, they probably don't know because they haven't had someone tell them this is
Of
how you're
course.
supposed to be treated.
Hmm.
Or if they're, take a view of like independence or they feel like it's degrading them, as we've seen, then as a guy, you have to say to yourself, well, do I want to be like this? Or do I have to be stifled in being who I am? Do I have to be stifled being a man and compromise myself, which we talked about last week? Or we
Yep.
say, hey, you know what? You're not the right girl for me. Thank you. Hopefully you've learned something and moved
Yeah.
on.
Don't compromise yourself, like we said. And that is definitely not the girl you want to be hanging out with anyway.
Yeah. And for guys out there that I was never taught that. Everything I learned on my own. I learned everything through trial. More error than trial.
Me too.
But when it comes to role models, my role models were, they weren't exactly family men, but that's all right as you go through life experiences, and
Hmm.
that's what's missing these days. Even for my friend, I had friends of mine that got married young a couple years back. They were young, and I'm like, man, I just don't see this working. Within a year and a half, they had already,
Yeah.
got separated. So I think life experience plays a huge role in the trajectory of what defines a man, because some people have been tested and tried where a lot of people haven't been. And I think you see that even just in our leadership today, where they haven't been tested, they haven't been tried. And I think that's why we're in the position we're in with inflation, with the state of the social strife, with the state of, people's things. As we go through history is our greatest teacher. And history comes with life experience. His story, if we take a look at that word, his story or her story. So, like my story, my personal history was everything I went through that got me to where I am right now at 2:31 p.m. on Thursday. Right? But a lot of people don't have a history because they haven't been exposed to that. So
Hmm.
again, I think and agree with me and give me your input. How important life experience is for a man.
I think it's very important. I mean, without those experiences, those trials, those tribulations, the wins and the losses, how are you gonna not only move forward, but how are you not gonna grow as a man and also know what is working and what's not working for you?
Right.
It's wild to me.
And what's even wild too, I just thought of this. I mean, could you imagine being like in fourth grade and they're asking if you want to be a girl? I mean, when I was in fourth grade, well, I mean, I never really found girls icky. I
Me
didn't
neither.
mind I didn't mind catching cooties from a girl, honestly. So I can tell you,
Me neither.
even back to like fifth grade, I mean fourth grade. So if someone said, "Hey, do you want to get your genitals mutilated or you want to become a girl?" I'd be like, "No, yuck." You know, and I think I couldn't imagine being a kid and having propositions or having things being thrown your way to change your gender and mutilate yourself. It's unbelievable.
It's too young and it's too confusing for them because it's too many
100%.
options at too early of an age. You don't know shit when you're 8 years old. You don't know shit. You know what ice cream flavor you like, and you like recess, and I don't know
Sports.
what else. Yeah, sports, whatever. And that's all you. That's your world. That's all you know. How are you going to make a complete life changing, life altering decision? But I blame the parents on that
Yeah.
100% because the parents are all fucked up and out to lunch, and I think it's just bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. And if you go through
And I'm
life
not afraid to say
experience,
it. It's not right. And they should
I
not push it on kids in school. I don't want my kids coming home. Why are there 3 bathrooms? I don't know. There shouldn't be. There should be 2 bathrooms. It's really that simple.
agreed. 100%. And I couldn't
And everyone's
imagine.
like, "Oh, you can't say that." Why can't I say that?
Yeah,
I can
why?
say whatever I want.
Exactly. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But
That's
again,
offensive. You know what? Your fucking 3rd bathroom's offending me. And I don't wanna see a grown man in a girl's room. I don't care if he has a wig on or lipstick. I don't wanna catch a guy in the girl's bathroom. You will read about it. That's not gonna fly.
yeah, I agree. And it shows how important life experience is. If at a certain age you feel like, hey, I don't think being comfortable in my own skin is the right move, but after
100%.
life
We have
experience,
friends that have done this. We know quite a few people that have made the decision. They also made the decision when they were an adult
yeah,
and they did their research. And guess what? We're still friends with them this day and age. I have zero problem with it as long as they're happy. And I guarantee you, they are not going to support an 8-year-old or less, even younger, being propositioned this. I'll put money on it. They are against it.
yeah.
It's not right.
There seems to be an epidemic of common sense and lack of it, on parents' parts and even the teachers and people that espouse this type of stuff to
The whole school
children.
system
It's
is a joke. It's
it's
really
pretty
bad.
bad.
It's really bad.
It's pretty bad, and you're seeing a lot of behaviors now, especially when it comes to Israel, that were being done 50, 60, 70 years ago that,
And now it's out of control because
it's out of
everyone's like
control.
copycat. They're getting the fame now. They're 15 minutes of fame and they're ripping things down. Like, here's the thing. They want to act tough and they want to be cool. And they, first of all, they don't even know the facts. They don't know history. They don't know the facts. So you should just stay in the corner and educate yourself. If you're going to do these things, you better be ready because you're going to piss certain people off. And are you able to handle that? Because I guarantee you, from the ones that I'm seeing at least, they can barely tie their shoes. There's no way they're going to get through life. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, and what's even scarier is when you have a conversation with people, they'll say, "Oh, I don't know what's going on over there. It's just all so confusing. All I know, Trump sucks."
Because that's all they
That's
got. That's all they got.
So really educate yourself to the facts as to what's going on. And next Saturday is Veterans Day, which is a
Hmm.
very special day here at EmpowerMan because our veterans, men and
Yeah,
women, mean the world to us. We love them, and we can't
absolutely.
do enough for them. And I'm hoping, with the Danny Dietz Foundation that you're heavily involved with, that we're getting us all involved in, and other things that we can do for our veterans. Without them, we don't have this forum. Without them, we
No,
don't have the freedoms and liberties to have these rallies and this type of speech across this country. So,
without them, you
keep
don't
them.
have your purple or green hair shouting shit at people that you don't even know and you don't know your facts. Without them, you can't even do that. And by the way, why don't you take your green hair and go to one of these other countries and let me know how that works? You're not welcome there. You're just trying to support them. They don't want you in their country, and they're gonna kill you. They're straight up throwing you off a roof.
Crazy.
So let me know. You still want to fight for the cause and look cool and protest and all that without knowing the facts? Know your facts.
Yeah. 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 Greg and T, I want to wrap this up here by asking you one last question. I think this is the one of all here. What do you think the biggest challenge and I'll probably said this earlier because I know we've been having this
Yeah.
awesome conversation. What do you think the biggest challenge that a man faces in today's times?
Society. The biggest thing is the society is so against a man right now in all aspects. It's just against it. But when push comes to shove and shit happens, you're going to need a man. So for the guys that feel like they're not wanted or not welcome, or they're fighting an uphill battle, Mike and I get it. We trust me, we get it. But that shouldn't stop you from being who you want to be and who you're meant to be. This country needs real men. Bottom line. And the whole this new generation is so beyond soft. It's comical. And that's your last line of defense. How's that going to work out?
Yeah.
You need we need strength again. We need strength.
Yeah, there's always that added strength in numbers. And the more we can create a community, like we always talk about it, of like-minded people, it'll hopefully rub off on other people, and we can step back into being a man. Because, like you said, now those that are soft, we're going to need guys like us when push comes to
100%.
shove. You know,
Absolutely. What are you going to do? You can't even defend your space in front of you. How are you going to defend your home? I look at a lot like this is another bad thing, but like when I'm out and about and I see families, because we do family things, let's just say apple picking, because this was a joke I made. There's hundreds of people there with their families, and I go to my wife like, count the men you see while we apple pick. I think she counted like four. There's hundreds of people there. So, and I look at them and I'm not trying to be a dick, or I'm not trying to offend anybody, but what are you going to do if somebody attacked right here right now at the apple orchard?
yeah,
What are you going to use? You tell them use your words. Let me know how that works out. These guys can't defend themselves. They can't defend their families, which is not safe if you're the woman. And if you're the kid, I would think you'd want to feel protected. Or at least, if shit goes down, at least he'll try.
yep,
When you're talking about hundreds of people and she said, I counted about four, that's wild to me. That's a problem. Now multiply that across the country. It's sad. It's bad. It's not good numbers, not a good statistic at all. I think society is the biggest threat right now. And society is a big thing. It's made up of a lot of moving parts. It's from like media, social media, government, laws, all sorts of things. It is the number one challenge men are facing.
yeah. Because it's the narrative has changed.
Hmm.
Society has changed the grassroots of what we grew up knowing what a man was: protector, provider, someone who takes accountable. Adding the vulnerability factor is a good thing. It's okay, with the prevalency of mental illness coming up. A lot of guys suffer from depression and anxiety, so it's good to have that layer on top of it. But when the
Yeah.
narrative becomes too skewed, then men have a challenge. Where do I fit in the world? Where do I
So
fit in?
we saw what happened last week with that mass shooting.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a problem. That was one man, one capable man. And I think we got lucky that he killed himself. And because that could have been way worse, number one. And he was pretty skilled where he could have stayed in the wilderness for a while. And it would have been a problem because they were shutting things down, and as they should, and closing schools and like shelter in place, and that shelter in place for a quick time was expanding each day as it should. They don't know if he was going north to Canada, south, no one knew.
Right.
But think about all the resources that were pooled in, federal, state, local, all geared up with their guns and their tactical stuff, looking for him. Helicopters, you got divers swimming for one man. Imagine if there was 10 of them. And ten's not a lot. Imagine if there was 20 of them. Imagine if there was 10 of them spaced out 100 miles each. Yo, that's a fucking problem. And that's only 10 guys. We let how many illegals in, I know I'm going way off on this, but this has something to do with it. You're going to tell me that that's not we are going to have a problem 100%. And we are going to pay the piper as a country because of all of our foolish mistakes that were made.
And it
Wow.
sounds like a very opportune time with our election coming up in 2024. So you
The
like
whole
to
thing
think there isn't a coincidence, you know?
the whole thing is a joke. Our government has become it's become the laughing stock of the world. All these other countries are laughing at us. They're preparing all their citizens for war, and they're preparing them for battles and just life skills, we'll call it. And we're worried about trans stuff, and let's put a different bathroom in, and oh, what color should someone's hair be, and like protests. Do you see the biggest disconnect in this world right now from our country and everybody else's? We are the laughing stock of the world. It is prime for people to plan something and to take advantage of it. And it's
Yeah.
scary. That scares me because I have little kids.
Yep. And we also are, with our moms and other family
Yeah.
members that are still around. So it's it definitely makes you more aware, and I think now more than ever, men need to step into that role. And I'm
Yes.
going to say it because you have it's really stuck in my mind, Greg, about being a protector, provider. Someone takes accountability, and then add on that little layer of vulnerability. I think those four things are what I took away from today's conversation about really a man, and a man in 2023, what they can be and what they could be,
Yeah.
but they choose, I think sometimes not to be, and they kind of shy away from that role. And I think that's kind of a byproduct of the society that you just alluded to.
Yeah. And all right, guys, you don't know where to start. Do I go get my gun permit? Do I go do no, no. Just get in shape. Can you run up a flight of stairs? Can you run around the block? Can you run, I don't know, 100 yards to safety if something's going down? 90% of guys can't do that.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Take care of yourself first and be able to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I keep thinking about Curtis and Kara, and Kara
Yep.
about saying how she wanted a real man, and Curtis is the guy's guy. I mean, I love him. We're going to see him December
Absolutely.
14th. For another wrestling event in Orlando, and you think about that, and there are a lot of women like Kara out there that really, gravitate towards those old school masculine qualities that were that have been eroded due to society's perspective and society's redefining of what a man is.
And look at her, strong, independent, educated, highly successful. Nothing's taken away from her because she wants a real man. It just adds to her, and she adds to him. It's a great force if you blend the two. And we are missing that as a society nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope we get it back. I hope,
It's
and
going to
that's
take work and a lot of time.
and it's a true partnership that they have. We'll use that as an example,
Yeah.
where it's a true partnership, and
Yep.
it's cool to know people like that.
Absolutely.
Greggy T, was an awesome conversation, and I think we should, before we wrap this up, somebody I know launched something pretty cool this week. It ain't me. Forever Progress is
Yeah.
now
Doors
live and
doors are
running.
open. Doors are open and it's live to the public. No, I was doing it privately for a long time, and now I just opened it up to the masses. So it's for new real estate agents as well as experienced agents, and it's great one-on-one coaching. It's an awesome platform. Basically, my goal and vision is to get agents in the proper mindset where they do not need to rely on companies anymore. You can be a successful agent anywhere you go. I don't care if the market's up, down, sideways, if an atomic bomb went off, you will make money in real estate if you have your head right. And that's my vision. That's my goal. I want people to all own their own companies and succeed and do great, not just work for a company and just fit in their vanilla box, because we're all different. We all have our strengths and our attributes, and I am very good at tapping into that for the agents. So thank you, Mike. Go over to foreverprogress.com and check it out. You can message me here. You can message me on my Instagram there. It's all good.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. And again, it
Thank you,
takes
sir.
courage to do what you're doing. It's not easy. And for all guys out there, Greggy T is stepping into it. And
Yeah.
if you're having that kind of apprehension, keep following us, keep listening to us, keep clicking
Yeah.
on likes and subscribe to our YouTube channel and all the other social media Greggy T laid on them.
Yeah.
Where can they find us?
You can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. It's EmpowerMan Podcast. Check it out. EmpowerManPodcast.com is our website. And Mike and I are living what we're speaking. We're speaking from our experiences, from our wins, and also from our losses. None of this is made up. None of this is just like a big shine fest. We are talking to you from the heart, just from our experiences, and hoping to help others make the right decision, so it's a shorter path and not take the longer, more difficult one, like we did on many things. So we're just here to help, speaking from the heart.
Yeah, and like I still do. I still take that long, arduous path where I get knocked off the road a few times.
Yep.
But it's not about how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get back up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I
that's
want to give a shout out real quick to Florida Patriot Supply. You got to check them out, Mike. They're pretty awesome. Florida Patriot Apparel. I'll put the link down. They got some cool stuff. So
Yeah, definitely put the link down. That's really cool.
yeah, man.
And with not to be confused with our friends at My Patriot Supply. And I also want to give a shout out to my boy, Mike Lindell, to my fellow guy. He may have rejected me for coming on the podcast, but he will come on at some point. But I want you to know, Mike Lindell, I have a mattress topper, a My Pillow mattress topper, because my mattress is like 6 years old, and it shouldn't be like giving me backaches. Right? I slept like a champ last night. But the My Pillow mattress topper, dude, that thing is unbelievable. It sounds like a gimmick, but I'm telling you, that is unbelievable. Not only am I going to buy a mattress topper, another one for my Murphy bed that's coming in, but I'm also going to buy the My Pillow towels and washcloth selection, because he's having a really good deal on that. And I'm going to get the My Slippers, thinking about it.
It's a big plug, Mike Lindell. You better listen to him.
It is. And you better come on this show, Mike Lindell, because I think you'd be awesome for this. And on that note, Greggy T, it's always a pleasure. We are rapidly approaching our 30th episode, which is really the standard by which most of these podcasts are judged by.
Yep.
Next week, we're hoping that Chris will come back on for Veterans Day. It's going to be a special Veterans Day episode.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, don't want to miss that. So we're gonna definitely pay homage to our veterans that we talked about earlier. And any final thoughts there, big guy?
No, man, just, it's not all doom and gloom. Just be a good person, be a good American, be a good patriot. And the world needs men. This country needs men. So be the man.
Sounds good to me, Greggy T.
Yes,
from
sir.
Florida, from the Free State, from Ronnie DeSantis' estate, I bid you adieu, and God bless.
All right, guys. Take care.